Tonight on Oregon Art Beat, Heather Soderberg cast her first bronze piece before she started kindergarten. She's been an artist ever since.
Good evening. Welcome to Oregon Art Beat. I'm Katrina Sarson.
And I'm Jeff Douglas. Thanks for tuning in. Katrina, I understand you headed up the gorge for this first story.
That's right, and we had great weather. I wasn't expecting to find a forge in Cascade Locks, but our next artist built one when she moved her business into town. She started making art when she was young, really young, and she loves working in the gorge. Meet Heather Soderberg.
I first started sculpting about the age of 2 when I was still in diapers. I remember it so clearly, and I've been sculpting ever since.
Heather Soderberg is a sculptor and bronze artist. She has a studio and workshop in Cascade Locks. It's filled with life-sized clay sculptures in progress.
I like to create movement, to kind of tell a story with my sculpture. And I love doing the whole process. I love sculpting all the way to creating the bronze. So that's a big part of it for me. And I just going up to him, kind of crawling and gesturing for some wax. I wanted wax too, and I took off and went to the corner and came back, and I sculpted 5 little women in different styles and showed it to my dad, and he freaked out.
Her dad cast the figures in bronze, and Heather's career as an artist began. By the time she was 6 years old, the young prodigy had been profiled in the National Enquirer and other media. She was featured in People magazine's Guide to the Up-and-Coming in 1982. She said, "When I get bigger, I'm going to still be an artist." But in her late teens, Heather walked away from sculpting and working with her dad.
He very much was supportive and loved me being in the arts, but I got rebellious, so I went to college for criminal science. Ended up really rebelling. I moved to Maui and was going to join the Coast Guard and be a diver.
This bronze piece, called Sea of Dreams, is a symbol of how her life changed. It was the day before she was to sign out for the Coast Guard. She was on a solo dive off Maui. Suddenly, she realized things were going terribly wrong.
I ran out of air. I noticed everything got very, very calm, no fish, and it was kind of eerie, so I surfaced and saw some things coming towards me. It was a little bit of dread, but then I realized that they were dolphins, wild dolphins, and they actually swam around me and interacted with me, and it was indescribable. It was amazing, and they kind of nudged me back to shore.
Back on shore, she reflected on her life and decided to return to sculpting. She made Sea of Dreams with her first batch of clay.
I'll just start sculpting, and all of a sudden look at the clock and 5 hours has passed, or so yeah, I love that.
Heather and her dad didn't just work together. Years ago, they invented a special type of clay called classic clay. It's made with wax and oil, not water, so it doesn't dry out over time. Classic clay can't be fired in a kiln, but it can be melted down and used again and again for sculpting. Heather has created a version that uses all natural ingredients.
I use earth, basically, potter's clay, and then I use beeswax or recycled wax from my foundry and olive oil. And just make a big witch's brew, and and I can recycle it and use it over and over. Most of the clay I have now I've had for years and years, so it never goes bad or cracks or hardens. The clay sticks to itself pretty well, especially when it's warm. So just kind of attaching it little by little, kind of creating a little network. I like to make very delicate hands. My hands feel very coarse, also doing the metal work and working with the really hot clay sometimes. They're kind of calloused and hard, so I like to make my hands delicate and graceful and sensitive. I like to convey peace. That's my biggest thing. I grew up pretty fearful, pretty tumultuous childhood, and my dad being an artist, we traveled a lot. I was stressed out a lot. So sculpting brought me tremendous peace and calmness and some clarity.
She divides her time between sculpting clay in her studio and bronze work. Fortunately, her foundry is right across the street.
Working with bronze is completely the opposite of clay. It's completely technical and it's rigid. It has to be an exact way. So that part in itself is kind of fun. I get lost in that also. It almost has kind of a feel of alchemy, turning just lumps of rough cast bronze into something perfect and refined, and I like that. I feel like I have so much yet to learn and experience. I create every day, so I feel artistic, but I still feel like I have a long way to go. And one of my favorite quotes from Michelangelo, I think, on his deathbed, he had said that he had just yet begun to learn his craft. So I'm excited for the journey I have ahead of me, but I have a ways to go before I'd really call myself an artist.
Heather's studio in Cascade Locks is a long way from where she made her first figures, decades ago in Arizona. Her journey continues. An artist, she certainly spends her days like one.
One day I might work intensely, literally 8 hours straight on a sculpture, and forget to eat and do all the things I'm supposed to do. Or some days I may do, 5 different projects. So it just depends. Every day is so completely different. So I never really know what each day is going to be like.
Heather has several installations going up in Oregon and Southwest Washington over the next few months. You can get the details on her website. It features information about her work and lots of pictures. You can find it all at heathersoderberg.com.